In a snow-covered forest, a tiny frog is trapped in ice. He is motionless. His heart has stopped beating. His body is stiff, as if lifeless. For any other creature, this would be the end. But for the wood frog, this is just the beginning of a miracle. Segment 1, Getting to Know the Wood Frog. The wood frog, Rana sylvatica, lives in North America, specifically in Canada and Alaska, where winters can reach -30 degrees Celsius. When the temperature drops, other animals hide or migrate, but the wood frog copes with winter in an extraordinary way. It freezes itself. Segment 2. How does this frog freeze and come back to life? When the air starts to cool, the wood frog detects the change in temperature and begins to do something unique. 1. It increases the levels of glucose and urea in its blood. Glucose acts as a natural antifreeze, preventing the formation of ice crystals inside cells. Urea slows down its metabolism, causing its organs to shut down temporarily. 2. The heart stops, the brain dies, the body freezes. Up to 70% of its body fluids turn to ice. If other frogs were in this condition, their cells would be damaged and they would die. 3. When spring comes, the ice begins to melt, and the frogs come back to life. The heart starts beating. The blood flows again, without any injuries or side effects. Segment 3. The science behind this miracle. Scientists are studying this mechanism to understand cryopreservation, the science of freezing organs or people without destroying them. If humans can do this, maybe one day we can freeze sick people and wake them up in the future when a cure has been found. There are even scientific projects trying to freeze people in the hope of bringing them back to life hundreds of years from now. Conclusion and reflection. Wood frogs prove that death is only temporary. Nature has found a way. Could humans one day replicate this miracle? 2. Myths and Philosophy of Life. Title: The Frog That Dies and Reborn, a Symbol of Life. Opening narration. Philosophical approach. Have you ever felt like your life is frozen? No movement, no change. Like time has stopped. But like the wood frog, life always finds a way to start beating again. Segment 1. Frog Symbolism in Ancient Cultures. In many cultures, frogs are considered symbols of transformation and resurrection. Native Americans believed frogs were creatures that could move between the human world and the spirit world. In Egyptian mythology, the goddess Heket, goddess of birth, is depicted as having a frog's head, symbolizing rebirth. In Taoism, frogs are often associated with the balance of life energy and the cycle of reincarnation. Segment 2. The philosophy behind dying and reviving. The wood frog does not actually die, but it enters a phase of total dormancy. This can be analogous to the human psychological condition. When experiencing trauma, a person can feel emotionally frozen. Like the wood frog, we need time to recover. Relevance to human life. In life, we often feel stagnant, stuck in suffering, but nothing ever really stops forever. Everything melts back and life goes on. Conclusion: the wood frog is not only a natural wonder, but also a reminder. No fall is forever. One day, spring will come, and we will all rise again. 3. Horror or mystery narrative. Title: The Curse of the Immortal Frog, a forbidden ritual resurrected from ice. Opening narrative: Horror approach. There is an old legend in a remote village. It is said that if you find a frog frozen in ice, never bring it home, because when it melts, you will bring something that should not come back to life. Segment 1. The mystery behind the wood frog. This legend comes from the Inuit tribe in the cold regions of North America. They believe that there is an immortal frog that has been frozen for hundreds of years, waiting for someone to wake it up. Whoever finds it will be haunted by the spirit trapped inside. Segment 2. the story of a researcher who ignored warnings. In 1987, a scientist named Dr. Carter found a wood frog that had been frozen for more than 150 years. He took it to the laboratory, trying to thaw it. That night, things start to happen. Electronic equipment shuts down on its own. The sound of ice cracking can be heard, even though the room is warm. Several scientists report nightmares about frogs' eyes opening in the dark. Segment 3. The terror begins. Suddenly, the temperature in the lab drops drastically. One scientist is found frozen in his chair, even though the heater is on. Dr. Carter begins to see shadows moving behind the glass of the lab. Then, he hears a voice. "You shouldn't have woken him." Twist ending. The next morning, all the scientists are gone. There is only one thing left in the lab, the melted ice, without the frog inside. Conclusion. Perhaps there are some creatures that are meant to stay frozen. If you find one, never wake it, because you may never be able to sleep again. 4. Historical and mythological approach. Frogs in ancient legends. Title: Intermediary creatures of the world. Frogs in ancient legends and myths. Initial narrative: mystical and historical approach. In many parts of the world, the frog is not just an animal. It is a symbol of change, reincarnation, and even a messenger between the human world and the spirit world. But what if this legend has something to do with the mystery of the dead and reanimated wood frog? Segment 1. Frogs in different cultures. Ancient Egypt, the goddess Hecate, the goddess of fertility and childbirth, was depicted with the head of a frog. Frogs were thought to bring new life, just as the waters gave birth to life in the Nile River. China and Taoism. There are myths about the moon frog, a creature that lives on the moon and has the power to heal and connect the human world to the supernatural. Japanese legends. Frogs are believed to bring good luck to travelers. There are tales of frogs returning to their owners after long journeys, similar to the ability of the wood frog to come back to life. Segment 2. The connection to the wood frog. The legend of the immortal frog may actually be related to the frozen and reanimated wood frog. Could our ancestors have seen this miracle long ago, then turned it into a myth? The big question: are there other animals with similar abilities that humans have yet to discover? Conclusion. What we call myth may be science that we do not yet understand, and what we consider impossible may only be waiting for time to be proven true. 5. Science fiction approach. Wood frogs and human cryogenic dreams. Title: 1,000-Year Sleep. Can humans get freezed and resurrected? Initial narrative: science fiction and explorative approach. If frogs can freeze for months and come back to life unharmed, could humans do the same? What if we could one day sleep in ice and wake up in the future? Segment 1. Cryonics and cryogenics. Currently, there are cryogenic experiments attempting to freeze recently deceased humans in the hope that they can be revived in the future when medical technology is more advanced. There are companies like the Alcor Life Extension Foundation that have frozen human bodies, although there is no evidence that they can be revived. The biggest challenge: unlike wood frogs, human cells do not have the natural mechanisms to survive freezing without being damaged. Segment 2. What can we learn from wood frogs? Wood frogs use glucose and urea as cell protection. Scientists are working on ways to mimic this mechanism to prevent human cell damage when frozen. If successful, we might be able to develop space hibernation technology for travel to other planets, or even freeze sick people until a cure for their disease is found. Segment 3. Risks and ethics of cryogenics. If humans could be frozen and revived, what would happen to their identities and memories? If someone were frozen in 2025 and woke up in the year 2500, would they still be considered the same person? What about law, religion, and human rights in this context? Conclusion. The wood frog may be just a small creature in a frozen forest, but it holds big secrets about the future of humanity. Maybe one day we could all be wood frogs who slept in the past and woke up in a whole new world. 6. Investigative approach, natural phenomena, similar to wood frogs. Title: Creatures that Defeated Death, the Secret of Living on the Brink of Death. Initial narrative, documentary approach, and scientific investigation. Wood frogs are not the only creatures that can die and come back to life. In nature, there are several creatures that are able to survive in seemingly impossible conditions. What is their secret? Segment 1. Other creatures with similar abilities. 1. Water bears tardigrades can survive extreme conditions, space, boiling temperatures, and deadly radiation. When conditions are bad, tardigrades enter a cryptobiosis phase, similar to dormant wood frogs. 2 46,000-year-old nematode worms found in the Siberian permafrost. These worms have been frozen for tens of thousands of years, then come back to life after being thawed. 3. Moss and bacteria that rise from the ice. Scientists have discovered moss that can survive in ice for thousands of years and grow back when it melts. Segment 2. What's their secret? What all of these creatures have in common? They're able to slow their metabolism to almost zero. Scientists believe that if humans can understand this mechanism, we could create technologies to extend human lifespans or survive extreme conditions. Conclusion: the world is full of creatures that refuse to die. They've discovered secrets that even humans haven't been able to understand. The question is, will we be able to copy them someday? 1. Science and natural wonders. Life is a cycle. Moral message. The wood frog teaches us that life is a cycle. There are times when we are down, frozen in difficulty, as if the world has stopped spinning. But like the frog that comes back to life when spring arrives, we can also rise from adversity. Don't be afraid of the winter in life, because there is always spring waiting ahead. 2. Philosophy of life. Don't be afraid of change. Moral message. Like the wood frog that adapts itself to the seasons, we must also be ready to face changes in life. There are times when we need to be quiet and wait. There are times when we need to move forward. Life is not about always being strong, but about how we can survive in any condition and still find a way back. Third horror narrative. Don't wake up those who should be sleeping. Moral message. Some things in life are better left as they are. There are secrets that don't need to be revealed. There is a past that doesn't need to be relived. Because not all that sleeps is dead, and not all that is silent is gone. 4. History and mythology. What we believe can be real. Moral message. Myths and science are often considered opposites. But what if myths are actually science that we don't understand yet? What was once considered impossible is now reality. Perhaps the greatest secret about life and death has existed for a long time. We just haven't found it yet. 5. Science fiction. The future belongs to those who dare to dream. Moral message. In the past, humans thought that flying was a dream. Now we have airplanes. In the past, we thought it was impossible to talk to someone from across the world. Now we have the internet. So, is freezing humans and waking them up in the future really impossible? Or do we just need time to achieve it? 6th, scientific investigation. The secrets of nature are all around us. Moral message. This world still holds so many mysteries. If a small frog can defeat death, imagine what else nature can do. Perhaps the answers to humanity's biggest questions are already around us. We just haven't learned how to read them. 1. Science and natural wonders, inspirational and contemplative. Life is like a season. There are times when it freezes, there are times when it flows again. If a small frog can survive death, who says we can't get through the storms in life? Because in truth, it's not the strongest who survives, but the most adaptable. 2. Philosophy of life. Deep and reflective. We are all wood frogs on the long journey of life. There are times when we feel dead, lost hope. But like the frog that wakes up from its ice, we too will rise. Because life always has a way to get back on track, even though we once felt like we stopped. 3rd horror narrative, mysterious and suspenseful. Never wake something that should stay asleep, because not everything that is still is dead, and not everything that is alive is truly back to the way it was before. 4th history and mythology, mystical and thought-provoking. Myths and science are just two sides of the same coin. What was once considered a legend is now proven to be a reality. So the question is, which myths will turn into science in the future? 5. Science fiction, visionary and futuristic. Today we learn from wood frogs. Tomorrow we may freeze humans for a journey to the stars. The world never stops evolving, and the mysteries of life are always waiting to be solved. The question is, are we ready to be part of that history? 6th scientific investigation, shocking and mind-blowing. If a frog can freeze itself and come back to life, what else do we not know about life? Maybe the line between life and death is not as clear as we thought. Maybe there are great secrets still hidden, waiting to be discovered.